You're good to go. You're recording. Feel good about all the shots. You're good. Okay. All right. I love this. We were just talking about the selfie. You're the goat. You said you never wanted to be the goat.
I never knew there was any glory in the goat. I was looking for something like, movie stars, something or other like
it's a
that.
goat.
Well, today you're the goat. That's that.
Do y'all know that's good?
That's good.
I want to make sure everybody knows that's good.
Now, as we get started, remember to talk into your mic,
Okay.
and I'm gonna tell you the devil's crowd is loud, and so when you talk into your mic, you got to speak up. Remember, the devil's crowd is loud. You remember that saying?
I do, but I'm louder. I can really be loud. I had to be. Every afternoon, I lost my voice at camp.
Come on.
Because we sang, and I yelled, and I screamed, and I swam, and I did all that stuff. And I would be so hoarse that I would have to talk like that. The kids would make fun of me, and then they'd all start talking like that. Okay, so just assure me that the goat is a good thing.
The goat is a good thing.
Make me comfortable.
Let's jump into this thing. Welcome to the Brookhill Podcast, Life, Legacy, and Leadership. And on the podcast today, we have Hettie Lue Brooks.
I feel like we need a hand clap there.
Yes, he will. Tyler, we'll make sure to have a hand clap there. Also joined, my co-host for today, Lindley Brooks McMillan. We'll have another one there. Lindley is third generation. Hettie, being first generation, started Brookhill. She is the ultimate legacy counselor.
Absolutely.
Since she started it and went forever. We won't even go through those kinds of years. But Stephen Sexton did the second podcast with us, and he referenced your line of start your own Brookhill as he was talking about Be the One and the house and those different things.
Yes.
And you actually did start your own Brookhill.
Well, so many people would say to me, like the women's seminar and things like that, "Oh, Hettie, if I could just live at Brookhill, if I could just be here with what's going on here." And I always had to say, "Remember, honey, I did not have a Brookhill. I had to start one." And that's what I encourage everybody to do wherever they live. You don't have any fun, you have to start the fun. Well, life is boring. Well, you have to pep it up. You have to do something about it. And, we daydream about what everybody else has. We don't realize that within us. And, for me, that's what camp was all about anyway. I wanted to get down inside them and show them what they had going inside them that they didn't even know was there.
And that's exactly what you did. And, some people have said that you're long-winded. I don't know who those people are. I've never, of course,
I feel real close to some of them right now.
I don't know that I've ever said that. I say you were just born for podcasts, like today. And so there is no time limit. And so you are unleashed today.
Now I'm born to be a goat, and I'm born for podcasts. What a new world I have entered into.
So you started your own Brookhill. How did that come about? What made you start a camp? How did you even get here? How did you meet Dawn? Let's have fun with some of that.
Well, I was 10 years old when I went to camp. And I learned all the Brookhill songs that we sing at my first, when I was 10 years old.
What songs? What?
Skinnamarink-a-dink-a-dink, skinnamarink-a-doo, I love you, And Do Your Ears Hang Low. All those songs. And I think y'all still sometimes sing them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so 10 years old. And so I remembered them. And as I grew up, I became a youth minister at church. That was my calling. I went to college and I went on all these fellowship teams every weekend and did with kids in different churches all over Arkansas. And I sang those songs. And I would fire them up and get them loose by singing all those fun songs that I had sung. So they go back, well, I'm 91 and I was 10. So those...
Couple years.
Yeah, several years. That goes back several years. And so I've just always loved camp. And I love kids. I did say, when this girl was up, 10 years old, leading singing, I do remember sitting there. She was so cute. Oh, she was just so full of life. Oh, she was so cute. And I said, I'm going to do that.
Wow.
You know, try to get people to say, I'm going to do that. I planted a seed. We don't know the importance of what we speak and the seeds we plant that come out of us. And I said, I'm going to do that. So immediately, I started immediately wherever even as a kid at camp, when I would go to my other camps, that they didn't know those songs. So when I was 11 years old and went to my own church, I was with a cousin at her church camp. So when I went to my denominational church camp, I would teach everybody the songs. And I was 11 years old. and so everywhere I went. So while I was in college on weekends, and our professor always called me, Hettie, you've got to go. And you've got to go. You know, I just had that God-given love for kids. And that visionary. I could just see how much fun they're going to have.
So when you said he was saying you have to go on what on the weekends? What were you doing?
It was called a fellowship team.
Okay.
And we would go to youth groups in churches, and their youth group would be kind of stagnant. And so they would have us come to fire them up.
Okay.
And so, you know, I understand firing up. I don't understand GOAT. And I don't understand podcasts. And I don't understand a lot of that. But I understand firing them up.
And this was in college?
Yes, all 4 years. All 4 years, that's what I did.
That's what we were talking about. Tyler was talking about, hey, we need to talk to Hettie about, fun, connection, and Jesus, and just some of the things that we are today. And I said, Hettie didn't come up, that's who she was. You didn't come up with, okay, well, we're going to have fun. We got to make sure we connect with people, and we got to give them Jesus, which, that's the thing. But for us being third generation, we want to make sure we define what you did and who you were. But what was Brookhill? Brookhill was Hettie. I mean, you were Brookhill.
Well, we didn't have any money, and we didn't have any equipment, and we didn't have anything. All they had was me. That's why we came up with Bone Valley and 206 horses. We did have that. And, one of them laid down one day, and we thought Grandpa died with a kid on him. And I just leaned over Brookhill, over Grandpa, and prayed, Grandpa, please get up. This kid will have a fit if you die right underneath her. Please get up, please get up. We really started with nothing. And I'll tell you how that happened. I won't tell you my story of Don Brooks. Those who may be watching on podcast, all my old campers and everybody back there, I just still love y'all and pray for you. I still pray over every seed I ever planted.
Wow.
And, being married to Don Brooks, he was like John Wayne. Just treat him rough and they'll like it. Well, I had to really come off of my beautiful world that I create. I just create this beautiful world. But I will say this. But after I would do with all the kids, I had to come home and live with me. And I don't want us to miss that as we're together today.
Good.
Because you can step up to the plate. Because kids brought it out of me. Boy, just being with them now, I understand being cool. That's an old generic term that you don't know anything about. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool is still cool.
Is it still cool to be cool?
Sure.
Okay. I'm a cool goat. I
There you
just
go.
want y'all to know that I'm a cougar.
I love that.
So, going home and everything's over. When I was in high school, I was a cheerleader. They gave me Miss Hot Springs title. It wasn't because I was beautiful. They asked me to come to all these beauty contests because I had the first title. I said, honey, when I did it, it wasn't a beauty contest. Look at me. That wasn't me.
Although we do have some photographs.
Yes,
I
we
think I
do.
might beg to differ.
Tyler, can you throw up that picture, the real colorful one of her? One that, yes.
Look at that.
Oh, forevermore.
Look at that right there. That's the goat right there. That's the beauty contest girl.
It is.
That's you.
All I can see is I need to fix my hair a little. I'm still wearing the same kind of hairdo, but
Yep.
can you believe that?
Is that so fun?
Is that so fun?
God created you in such a way that no matter who was in front of you,
Exactly.
you loved them.
Yeah.
You connected
Yeah.
with them, which is
My mother.
Christ-like. That's Jesus.
My mother loved Jesus. And my mother, I saw her live all this before me. Now, she didn't live the social life that I just dipped into.
Wouldn't you say that was a little bit more Big Daddy?
Oh, yeah.
So I think when you're talking, you got both of them because I know Big Daddy was very social.
Everybody loved my daddy. He was standing out in front of our furniture store.
I think we've got a
and waiting.
picture
Tyler,
of
will
them
you put
actually.
that picture of her family? I think it has sister in it.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
that. So that's you on the left. Is that
That's
correct?
me. Oh, look, I don't look happy.
And,
Oh,
and
I
that-
wonder-
you hadn't started camp yet. That's why.
that's it.
And that's your sister.
That's my sister-in-law. That's my brother, Shug.
Oh.
That's my sister-in-law, Kathleen.
Okay.
Both of them have gone to be with Jesus. I'm the only one left standing up there. I do have to tell you about that.
And this was older brother.
Well, he's just 18 months older than me.
So not
And
okay.
then this is Big Mother when you were talking about.
Yes, that's
playing.
my mother.
And Big Daddy
And Big Daddy.
and then his hand.
Okay, when he was 22 years old, he was out hunting. And they had these old guns that use stuff in them. I don't know about all that. But he was cleaning it, and it slipped, but it was still loaded. And he got buckshot in his hand.
Wow.
Well, he was down in a little old town in Arkansas, and in a little old hospital there, they took his hand off. Nowadays that wouldn't even happen.
It would have been saved.
But
yeah.
let me tell you something about that man. I never saw him. When I tied his shoes, he called me Hallelujah. He did not know when I was 5 years old that was going to be prophetic. He didn't have a clue because he definitely was not the spiritual leader of our family.
Okay.
He was the swinger,
Okay.
He
Sure.
would have really swung if Mother had let him. You know how that goes.
Sure. She
You're
kept him
married.
under wraps a little bit.
Yeah. But he never, when I tied his shoes, I thought it was because he was daddy. It never occurred, not ever, did it occur to me that he had one hand. I think I learned so much from him, but I had to be older because I grew up with him like that. So when I would go out and people say, oh, your daddy is the man with the one hand, it would shock me because I never thought of that. It never occurred to me that, my daddy just has one hand. And you see he has an artificial, he had this thing, he could pull his shoulder like that. And this would, nowadays, they'd have all that stuff.
Now, just so we have it on record, their names weren't actually Big Daddy and Big Mother. What? just for record.
I've almost forgotten what their names were.
That's all I've ever known
I
them
know
as,
with our
honestly.
kids.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah.
With our kids, that's all we ever knew.
But
And her name was Hettie. She's the only, we're the only two in the whole world.
that's not true. It's actually coming back. Hettie and Hattie.
Yes.
I told you should have named your kid after
both
me.
of them are coming. Hettie and Hattie are coming back.
I have tried my best to get some of my family members to name their kids Hettie.
Well, it's popular. So her name was Hettie.
You were
And I
named
became
after Hettie.
Lue. so we could distinguish between.
You just don't hear a lot of women named after their mothers. You have sons. That's
I know.
kind of neat. That's kind
But
of
I
unique.
live in a family that doesn't name people after their relatives.
Timothy, my son's name is Timothy.
Now, listen to Big Daddy's name, and you can see
Okay.
why I didn't tell the kids what his name was. I'll tell you now. This is probably the first time you've ever heard it. Clyde Elmer Wilson.
I knew Clyde.
Elmer.
I did
I've
not
never
know
heard of
Elmer, but I knew Clyde.
Oh, and so Daddy wondered why I didn't name Tim. It's after him.
It's good.
You know, I got Lee from Daddy's brother. Well, that insulted my daddy. Oh, why didn't you name after? Well, I didn't have anything to pick from.
But it was Big Daddy who originally owned Brookhill.
Oh, Big Daddy owned everything.
Yes.
He owned 2 furniture stores, a radio station, a drive-in movie that he created from scratch. He owned a long-distance trucking line. He
Didn't he own a bulldozer?
a bulldozer equipment deal, and he would drive them. In fact, when I go to Humble, Texas, my daddy drove a bulldozer digging out the reservoir for the water supply at Humble, Texas that goes in and does Houston.
Wow.
There you go.
So
Wow.
I'm famous
You are famous.
For that
Wow.
reason.
for that
For-
reason.
yes.
Yeah. I
So
have to
he
have a
had
reason.
Brookhill,
Yes.
and then you and Pop.
All right. So when I married Don Brooks,
Wait,
And-
can we tell this one story? Sorry, before you jump into that, the Big Daddy story that you wanted to tell, the Peabody.
Yes, the Peabody Hotel story.
I thought this was such a great lesson.
I love that. It's one of my favorites about Big Daddy. Can you tell that?
oh, the Peabody Hotel in Memphis was the biggest hotel. You know, that was back in years ago. And they built this Peabody. Well, Daddy was an avid newspaper reader. Now, my daddy quit school after the 6th grade.
Wow.
So my daddy only had a 6th grade education. So when I tell you the monumental things that he did, my daddy had a 6th grade education. Okay. And he just never was left out of anything that he wanted to be in. So he read the paper every day. So he kept no TV, radio. And he saw the pictures of the Peabody going up. And this was going to be a big thing because we were just, 3.5 hours, 4 hours from Memphis. So Daddy was determined to do that. Now, this is my daddy. Once he got out of the furniture store, when he left there, the only time I ever saw him dressed up again was when he wore a tuxedo at my wedding with a white shirt.
Wow.
I never saw overalls. Ooh, he was loose and free. Okay, we go to the Peabody, and he's in his overalls. He doesn't have his artificial hand on, so he's got one hand. He's in overalls. He goes into the Peabody to register, and they wouldn't let us in.
Wow.
So Daddy came back out laughing, and he said, now, hallelujah, let me teach you a lesson here. You're going to tend to judge people by what you see and what you think they are. But he said, you have no idea what people are. He was always teaching me these lessons. And he took out that big wad of money. And he said, see, they just looked at me. And he thought it was funny. I think Daddy, because he could laugh at himself and laugh about those things, when I just learned that I didn't have to perform all the time, I could really laugh. When you fall down, just,
I can say without hesitation, because I grew up knowing that story about the Peabody and all of that.
Oh, you did?
Yes, and without hesitation, that's been one of the things that has shaped my view of other people, is knowing that story because I've known it forever. And every time I feel myself tending to get judgy or judgmental, I remember that and remember you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know. And I know that whenever I was a counselor, now that we're training staff, that's how we train them is you don't know who you're praying for. You don't know who you're ministering to. You don't know who that little life is. And that is a lesson Big Daddy has passed down and has really shaped. I know. And
I even love the fact that it didn't bother him.
No, see, that's
because he knew who he was.
Exactly.
And to be bothered, which is such a Brookhill thing, these counselors, that's what makes them so special, is they know who they are. And so many young people come, and they're free. See, you used to talk about that so much. That and we used to think, oh, that was something she did for Brookhill. No, that's who her daddy was. That's who you were. You were free to just be yourself. And when everyone else can get free.
Okay, Daddy got in a little financial situation. He was into so many things. He's getting older now. He's getting tired. He's not as sharp as he was. So he wants to, he needs money. So Donna and I got married. That was a cute story how that all worked out. We said, Daddy, do you know how much money you could make if you would sell? Now, Brookhill wasn't anything. He did build that big barn. And there's a picture of him. I don't know whether you've seen it, but he's leaning on the fence out in front of the barn. Because at that time, it was the biggest barn in Arkansas. He thought.
He thought.
Yeah. There was nobody
Sure.
that he knew in all the places that he tried. He'd never seen a barn that big. So he was so proud of that big barn. And then this little bitty house. And that was Brookhill. And all this where we are now, up here where camp is, and no water, no anything, nothing.
No water.
Just to give the viewers a reference for that barn, that is the barn that now the nature activity.
The big gray barn.
The big gray barn is the barn that
where
you're talking
nature,
about. That's right.
Across
nature
from
activity.
the log cabin.
Across from the log house.
Which it was when it was the inside
right.
part of it.
That's correct.
That was it. That was
That
all.
was it.
That was
no
it.
water holes.
Yeah. And Daddy built this little house, and he had a family with 10 kids that lived in it. And that's the house that Don and I birthed our children in.
So that family that he built it for was the original, and then y'all were the second family?
Oh, no, we were the third or fourth. He
Okay.
had several people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So around, 1920, 1930, maybe you were young when it was built?
Yeah, I was probably 8 or 10
Okay,
years old.
1938
And he
then.
had 3 farms.
Okay.
And he ended up, Now,
Okay.
he didn't sell the one where we lived down.
On Highway 5.
We had that one for a long time.
So that barn is a good 82, 83 years old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. But he sold all that property. He needed money. Now, Don and I are married, which is a real story. Now, we don't have anything. And Don thought that he could make it in the cattle business. Daddy had just bought 100 head of sheep. He'd never raised sheep before. But we raised quail. He went in the quail business. I just can't even tell you about my dad. But anyway, so he had 100 head of sheep. So when Don and I got married, Don didn't know anything about sheep. Don had 2 or 3 cows that he had over at his daddy's house. My daddy was building a pond with a bulldozer for his daddy. That's where Don and I reconnected. Well, and then Don was good looking, so I went after him. Daddy, sell Brookhill. We didn't call it Brookhill. It didn't have anything. It was horrible. It was nothing. It was just nothing. There was that ring. We tore the middle ring down now. It's not there. The big pasture that's in front of the horse barn.
Okay. That pasture was pasture.
It didn't have the ring out there. It didn't have anything. But that was a little open field. All the rest of it's woods.
Trees everywhere.
Everywhere.
Fun Swim Hill,
No,
your
yeah,
house hill, the
yeah.
pavilion, the cabin, trees everywhere.
In fact, until I got on a horse, I didn't know the hill where you now live was even there
Wow.
until I rode a horse. Until we got on horses and I came up here where this hill is, where Brookhill is now. And so nobody wanted to live here. None of our family. You just talk about the ranch. It's dirt road.
Sure.
From Highway 5, dusty, and then coming down the little road to the ranch was even worse. And it was so narrow that if you passed anybody, you had to get down the ditch. I mean, I hope y'all are getting a picture of where Miss Astor, Miss Cheerleader,
Miss Socialite here.
Miss,
Hot Springs.
I hope y'all are getting a picture.
City girl.
I'm telling you, I had a friend that came to the old house we were trying to fix up when Don and I were going to marry. She sat on the floor and cried because I was washing some old soot off of the old pot-bellied wood stove that had burned, and Don took all the wood down, and I'm washing them with this Soilax. Every board I'm washing off. And she said, Hettie, you can't do this. We went to Hendricks. She was at Hendricks. And she moved to Hot Springs to teach at Lakeside. Because,
Y'all went to Hendricks together?
Yes. And so when she was going to be a teacher, a phys ed coach, well, she chose Hot Springs so we were best friends. She loved Don Brooks. But now, Hettie, you cannot do this. And so, you know, I'm enough like my daddy to think that was funny. And that was fun. I mean, it ended up not being fun. I mean, it ended up, the world was going on without me.
Now, how many years were you out here with Pop doing the cattle business?
9 or 10 years. In that first year that we had all those sheep, they all died. Every one of them. All 100 of them. They all died.
I know we shouldn't laugh about that, but that's kind of funny now.
I know. It wasn't funny to Don. It was the worst drought
Oh, no.
we'd ever had. Even the feed stores
Oh, wow.
were having a hard time.
Okay.
So what little creeks we had on Brookhill, they all dried up.
Okay.
And there was no anything for them. And Don didn't know what he was doing. I mean, somebody else. He's 20 years old.
Wow.
I'm 24.
Okay.
Now, do you see how ridiculous the whole thing? It's so God. I just can't tell people how God just took over my life and spared me for His purpose. I mean, I came this close to marrying 50 boys. I mean, I just had, that's who I was. Well, Daddy, we begged him to sell the ranch. Now, this before Don and I got married and moved up there, but we all begged him to sell the ranch. None of us 4 kids wanted anything to do with it. I brought a boyfriend home from Hendricks with me one weekend, and we came up riding the horses because Daddy had some really nice horses. And I can remember being out in that pasture, and this boy said, oh, I can remember, wouldn't it be wonderful to live up here? He was a hunter. He loved duck hunting and all that. And these were words out of my mouth, I would not be caught dead living in this place. And you know what? That's exactly what it cost me.
Yeah. Wow.
I had to die. I had to die for God to do what He wanted to do. So I was talking to Daddy, and I said, Daddy, Don and I don't want to go through the inheritance thing, with the family and
That's right.
all that. Let us buy the ranch. And so I told Don, and he said, we don't have a penny. I said, we'll borrow it. We'll go get a farmer's home loan they have for farmers. We're farmers. They all died, but we were, And so Brookhill Ranch, I want you to know, your grandmother-in-law, we paid $20,000. Now, back in that day, I mean, we couldn't pay a $6 light bill. I'd see Don just sweat drops of blood trying to come up with paying a $6 light bill. We went and borrowed $20,000. And that was like $100,000 or $200,000.
Yeah, Tyler, what would that? You need to look that up, Tyler, on your phone. What that would be today, and just interject that when you get. But $20,000 for the 500 acres,
And we had nothing.
right? And that could have been $1 million to you.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it was $1 billion, million.
Yeah.
And that's why. Well, Don said, "How are we going?"
1954. What would $20,000 be? Inflation calculator.
Oh, that'd be good. And well, how are we going to pay it back? And I was so full of faith. Oh, honey, we can do this. You know,
We can start this camp. We can do this.
we can pay that 20.
What was the cost? It was like $210,000 today, which is still a lot. I mean, that's a lot of money. If you don't have anything, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
Wow.
So camp was a way to get kids.
$210,000. I knew it'd be $100,000. So it was $210,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So camp was a way to get kids to you, and then y'all to try to make some money to pay back for the ranch.
Well, I wouldn't even think about the money. I didn't even know where it was going to come from. I didn't. That was John's business.
That was his business.
sure, yeah.
Worry about that. I'm not worried about any of that.
Which I
Okay.
have right here.
His ledger.
His ledger. And that looks like your handwriting to me. This may be more his handwriting, but I have. That's Pop's handwriting.
That's Pop's.
That's Pop.
Wow.
That's Pop.
That's his ledger.
This is Mims.
Okay.
Yeah, that's his writing.
So this is his ledger.
He did pretty good. He got better than Tim.
1960. Yeah, Tim, you can't read it. 1968. So this is 4 or 5 years in here. You know, this has got stamps and cards. Smedley Millworks, 3250. You know, Debbie Barker Party.
Look right here. It's 30 people came for free.
It still happens. I still
So
have that.
here, this was in 67. So y'all started.
pretty good.
You had camp started in 64. So
Well, when you started, you probably weren't necessarily keeping records.
you
were
started with
just
7
Now,
kids.
Don always kept, he knew how much he paid for
Okay.
feed. He was always the bookkeeper, and he didn't want me fooling with it. So,
yeah.
okay. So I've
But what a
never
team. What a team. I mean, this is a 6th grade education. This is impressive.
No, now that was my daddy.
Oh, your daddy. That's right. That's right.
No,
Don
graduated
that's right.
from high school, but
That's
he
right.
didn't go to college.
He didn't go to college. Okay.
I'm a college graduate. I'm 4 years older than Don.
Okay.
Who's going to marry some hick guy's got 3 cows and works out at the aluminum plant?
Sure.
I'm telling you, even when you don't know what you're doing, if you will do it. I
Right.
read the Bible every day. I prayed every day. I never went to sleep from the time I was 10 years old without kneeling beside my bed and praying. You know, now I don't have to. I don't kneel beside my bed and say it because I pray all day. I pray for everything I see.
God was building something in you. And Jason and I talked about this in the last podcast. The greater the calling, the greater the process.
That's true.
And, I mean, you, Don, and you as a team built Brookhill Ranch Summer Camp that has influenced thousands upon thousands of lives. But you had to wrestle. God had to wrestle with you, and he had to build this process in you, because if you were going to keep going through camp starting, if you were going to keep going, you had to get this foundation. You had to get this stubbornness about you, that I know that God has done this in
Absolutely.
me, that he's called me, that
Absolutely.
he's taken me somewhere.
Absolutely.
And there's more, even if I don't see the more.
Well, see,
You had to have that.
I was religious, very religious.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, I went to church every time the doors opened. Still love church, but I didn't think there were any answers. But if you could have them, why wouldn't I have them?
Mim, how long were you and Pop married and living out here before you decided to start camp?
It was either 9 or 10 years.
Okay.
Okay.
So I had all 3 of my kids. You know.
Really?
Yes. Okay, we're going to have this camp. And Don said, well, what are we going to do? What will we do with them? And I said, well, I don't know, but they've got me. I'm going to do something.
I love what you're saying there. You know, it wasn't a pride thing of you were going to be the best or whatever.
Yeah, no.
You know, Lindley and I talk a lot with the counselors. There are no bad activities. There's only bad counselors. There are no bad cabins. You know, it's just such the flesh to say, oh, this cabin that I have this week, they're this. And we always tell them there's no bad cabins. There's just bad counselors. Because if you were a good counselor, you'd have a great cabin every week.
Right.
You'd have a great activity every time.
That's so good.
Which is that, I mean, that goes back to you starting camp.
Exactly.
I mean,
And that's
it's
exactly what I taught.
That's right.
That's exactly, you know.
That's right.
I
At
just-
midnight in staff training to Lindley and I.
Okay, so we're going to have a day camp. That's how we're going to start. And I've got my kids in town. Don said, well, how will we get them out here? How will they get here? Are all those cars or whoever's going to bring them? Oh, well, no, we'll have to have a bus. Yeah, we'll have to have a bus. We'll have a bus. And we can go bring them out and take them back on this bus. Don said, well, where are we going to get a bus? I mean, we can't pay a $6 light bill. And I said, well, we're going to pray. And I said, Father, if you want me to have a camp, I want to have one. You know I'm available and whatever. And I just thank you for whatever. Lay that down. Lay that down. I'm washing the dishes down at your house. Mm-hmm. I'm looking out that window that was there. And this big green bus, I promise you, if I started writing down as many miracles as I could think, and I thought, well, they'll never believe that anyway. It's unbelievable. For people that don't know what I know, this big green, I'm here, and there, right there, is this big green bus. You know, it's older, but
Sure.
it's painted for a hunting bus, I guess, or something. The man knocks on the door, and I go to the door, and I say, yes. And he said, I heard you folks were looking for a bus. I said, you did? And I said, well, I don't think we can do that now. And he said, me and Faith. Well, he said, just come look at it. So I looked at it. All the seats were out. They were making it for a hunting bus, you know. Don took me camping in it. That was my first,
Motorhome.
Mm-hmm. And I said, well, it doesn't even have any seats. Oh, I've got the seats. It can, all you have to do is just go back in. And I said, well, how much you want? And he said, $200. I said, $200? And I said, I'm sorry. But I said, we just can't do that right now. But thank you. Well, he tried to sell me. No, I'm sorry. Okay, he drives off. So I'm washing dishes. In just 15 minutes, here comes the green bus. He comes up again. He said, ma'am, have you really thought about that? And I said, I have. And I said, I'm so sorry. I would love to have that bus. But we just cannot do that right now. We're paying off $20,000 note and trying to have groceries. And I said, I'm sorry. He drives off. Well, 15 minutes, I look out the window 3 times, and here comes the bus. I threw that dish thing. I said, well, okay, God, if you want me to have that bus, I'll take it. So I went out, and the man said, well, I was by your Don's dad's hardware store. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Brooks said y'all were looking for a bus. So I guess Don had told Daddy B.
Okay.
That we're looking for a bus. And he said, well, would your father-in-law, would he want this bus? I said, I don't know, but I'll call him. So I called the hardware store. Mm-hmm. And I said, Daddy B, this man's here trying to sell me a bus. And I told him we couldn't afford it. Did you want it for a hunting bus? And how much do you want? And I told him. And he said, well, honey, I'll buy it for you. You just tell the man.
Wow. Wow.
Now, that was the first.
I never heard that story.
Nope.
You had
I've never heard that
Oh,
story.
I've got hundreds of them that you haven't
But I
heard.
didn't know Daddy B did that.
He did that.
I knew Daddy B played a big part.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was a huge
He
giver.
He always helped.
Oh, Daddy B paid for Melissa and I's honeymoon.
Is he amazing?
Yeah.
He was amazing,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
He was unbelievable.
Just to be clear, Daddy B was Pop's
Don's
dad. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who owned the hardware
Don's
store in
daddy.
Hot Springs.
Don J. And
Brooks Hardware.
he lived in the trailer house behind me. We moved him out, and I
Yep.
took care of him for the last 10 years of
Yep.
his life.
Which is where Mike and I started, in that trailer.
I know it. I was telling that story
But
yesterday.
both your dad and Don's dad had this history of owning their own businesses.
Exactly.
So
And
you
knew a
guys
bunch of
did come a
people.
little bit about
Yeah.
that honestly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, just
Entrepreneurs
Yes, and
and hard work.
right. It wasn't like they worked in factories for other people. You had been around that.
Well, and it's not like I just inherited Brookhill.
No. No.
For Don
No.
and me,
No.
Yeah.
it wasn't that easy.
No. A little bit of help, but yeah.
For, nobody paid off that $20,000 but us.
Wow.
So then you got that bus, and then that's how you would go into town and get them to come out
That's
here.
exactly right. And I would sing all the way back, taking them
okay.
back. We would sing all the funny,
And you had 7. Isn't that correct?
I had
seven the first.
kids.
Seven,
Had 7
campers,
kids and
day
2
camp.
horses. And
2
we
horses.
were in where the big barn is for the kids that may be hearing this.
Okay.
Where the big barn is, the little lot behind it where the cow
We have video of that.
Right.
is.
Right.
That was
Tyler,
that-
can you play some of that, the horseback? They were around that barn. If you,
We have that footage, Mim.
yeah, got some of that.
Oh, I haven't even seen these. This is going to be so fun.
Yeah, well, now, yeah, this right here, that's up at her house now, or yeah, up at the first pavilion. But do you have
We'll
any
come
of those?
back to that.
We'll come back to where's
that.
the horseback? Some of that. There you
Oh,
go.
there we
That's
are.
it, right there.
Yeah,
There
and that's
we
the
are.
barn. Right
Right
Oh,
there.
there. Yeah.
look. Oh, those are my kids.
That's the barn. There they are.
And
This is
you
in
look how
front
good
of the barn.
You look how straight that kid's back is. You look where their heels are. You,
You
look
were
at that
coaching
head.
them up.
Oh, I'm the teacher.
Yeah.
I got books on horseback riding. I got books on archery. I taught everything.
Okay.
And I learned I wanted to do it good.
So-
Right.
And then I made up these books, and memographed them and all that.
Now
to be
I have some of your original.
You did.
Oh, we have some of your handwritten
Yep.
books that you did for Small Lake. What were the very first activities when you had those 7 campers? What were the first activities? You obviously had horseback,
Okay. Then I had
crafts, which we have.
Crafts. Do you have any footage of that time?
We do. We have video footage of crafts.
Okay. I went to an automobile place. You could break a windshield and it would go into all these little pieces.
Your microphone. Yeah, here you go. We want people to
And it
hear
would
it.
go into all these little pieces. And I had them glue them on a board.
Look at this. Here's crafts.
Yeah.
They're gluing something there. I can
Is
tell
that
you
it? Glue? Are they gluing the?
No, we were where your bedroom is now.
Okay. Yeah.
We have crafts
That's up at the
footage
house.
inside the house at some
Yeah,
point.
Yeah.
We do.
But look at
Yeah,
those
here
red
we
teeth.
are.
Go back to that lady. No, just after her, there was a lady hugging a kid. That's you
That's
right
me.
there.
Now,
And that red
that
T-shirt.
was council ring.
Council ring right there.
That was council ring.
Okay.
So you had, because that was one of our questions, was when council rings
when did that start? Yeah.
That started the
I mean, this is the
Yeah,
this is the
probably
first 2 or 3 years here.
Maybe the 3rd year. Don said, we will have a house there, and we'll do the floor and the ends, and we can use that for our little gathering for the kids. So that's what we did. And so that was the second, probably.
So when you started camp, were you still down where I live now?
Yes.
That's where you started.
Yes.
And then after it had been going a little while,
Yeah,
y'all built
second
this
year.
part.
Second
Oh,
or third
okay,
year,
okay.
Don borrowed
So
some more
early.
money. We just borrowed some more money.
And the banks
know-
loaned it to you.
Yeah, and they, well, here was Don Brooks. Okay, we wanted to do this big project, and so we went to the bank. That was when we wanted to build the pavilion.
This house one right here? where
Right
your
here.
house? Oh,
The
this one.
pavilion.
The new pavilion. Okay.
The new pavilion. When we went to the bank, and the banker said we loved him, and he had cows, and we were real close. And so he said, Hettie, he said, we already were paying. Yeah.
This is it right here.
That was trying to borrow money for that. Okay, so we went to the bank and he said no.
He said no.
He said no. He wouldn't loan us the money. So we go out on Central Avenue with all the cars going by, and Don Brooks has tears. It's probably one of the few times. I don't think I was ever in the hospital or had a baby in hard labor. Don Brooks never cried about anything. I think not getting money is one of the...
That made me cry too.
Yeah, you as a man.
I understand, Don.
So I said, well, we'll just go up to Mr. Nash, up the hill up there to the farmer's home. We already owe them $20,000. You think he's going to loan us any more money? I said, well, you don't know that he's not. And he said, he's not going to loan us any more money. I said, well, honey, that's where we're going right now. That's where we're going. So just dry your eyes, and here we go. And so we went in. Now this is, this gives me the Holy Ghost supposed to see what God, to God be all the glory. God, I'll never rob you of your glory. It's so God.
Absolutely.
We walked in, and I said, Mr. Nash, we want to start a camp. Well, we've started a little camp. And now we think we want to build a building. And we need money to do that. I know we already owe you because it was a farmer's loan that they loaned to farmers. That's how we got the $20,000 in the first place. And so Don's standing there. He had a piece of paper, and he said, "Would you believe this? Today, I got notice from the government that we were to begin farm recreational loans."
Today.
He dropped the paper. How much do you want?
Wow.
I tell you, Don Brooks, I had more fun watching him. When we were going to add on, and he gave us the money we needed, and we built that.
So
Then
this
we
is
wanted to
actually
add-
the
Yeah,
pavilion.
this
Just
is
so
the
everybody knows,
kitchen.
this is it. You're
This
looking
is
at
where,
the pavilion.
yeah. This is the screened in area
Yeah.
right
This
there.
is where the asphalt drives now, like the
Yep.
round circle right in front.
Yep.
Uh-huh. And we
Yep.
put that front, see where those rocks are, is the front of the
That
pavilion
far
now.
door on the other side of the station wagon, that's where you come out of the cafeteria right
Yeah.
there.
Yep. Well, we wanted to enlarge that.
Sure. Yep.
And so
We got those pictures of added onto it.
So Don said, honey, look, the men are coming with the steel. And he said, I have to have $2,000, and they're coming Tuesday. And I have to have $2,000. We need to have $2,000. But he said they won't unload the steel for the new if we don't have that $2,000. And I said, okay. And so I said, Father, this is your building, and I'm just building it for you. Okay. Martha, my secretary at
Martha
that
Maynard.
time, Martha Maynard. See, I was speaking all over the country. Now, my faith and my baptism of the Holy Spirit, and everybody wanted to.
Which was so God's timing, because you started with the day camp because you're going in town, and you'd have some of the school kids come out during the year, and so that's kind of how you started building camp, and that was great for where you were. But then as God began to send you out,
Exactly.
Now we have, I think it's almost 40 states every summer represented. Well, that began to get to those 40. And obviously you got people that moved off and stuff like that. But that began from you going out, especially to Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how you begin to pay for camp.
Exactly. And see, they would give me these big honorariums, and that's how we built our first church building.
Right. Right.
After I started all that project. Okay. So Don gets up on Tuesday morning, and he said, honey, where's the $2,000? The steel is coming today. And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know. Martha shows up, and she said, Hettie, Oh, Hettie, I've had this it was a little envelope, and she said they gave it to me yesterday, Monday, and I forgot to give it to you yesterday. But here's this little note from this woman. Opened it up, checked for $2,000.
No, get out.
I promise. I promise.
Wow.
This is my life. This is my whole life. If I told you, it's one miracle, just like that.
Right.
Just one right after another. I went over to Don. He called me. Hettie, the men are here. I'm on my way. Well, okay. I mean, So he's standing out by this truckload of steel, and he's standing there. And I said, honey, he said, $2,000. And I said, try this. And I handed it to him. I can still see it to this day. He looked at it, and he dropped it, and I can see it floating to the ground. He said, it was floating to the ground. And he said, I don't believe it. And it's just miracle after miracle and all that. So, all the lakes that we have, every engineer that's been there wants to know who engineered your lakes. And I always have the fun of telling them, well, you really want to know? I know the world, and I don't try to be Miss Spiritual.
Sure.
I'm not trying to be any of that. But you don't have to be that. You just have to love the Lord with all your heart and submit to Him and surrender and feed yourself.
Right.
You got to feed yourself faith.
Right.
To have faith, you have to feed yourself. And every time I read the Word of God, He cuts off something that needs to be cut off.
Right.
All the things
God gives us a creativity. When you're spending time with Him, and I know, in listening to your stories, I mean, that's how we have what we have. Was God showed you each lake, and that's now it's like how, but in the moment you were like, I see it. And it was just, and I know Lynn and I have made different decisions that when we look back on it, we go, well, how did we not do that before? I don't even know how we survived without that whatever. But God just revealed that to us at the right time for what Brookhill needed there. And that's the way it is in all of our lives as we're connected with Him.
Absolutely.
As we're spending time with Him.
Camp really took a turn when my campers got old enough to be junior counselors. And when I got the junior counselor thing, God gave me that.
Okay, how did that come about? Because, we do that. Some camps today, junior counselors are still at camp, whereas here you graduate and you start to be responsible for leadership.
Well, He just laid all that out to me.
Okay.
And, I had mothers that when they would put their 9th grade daughter in a bunkhouse with a 3rd grader,
because we do family-style bunkhouses, and a lot of parents ask that. Why did you do that?
Now, Hettie.
Why'd you do that?
I could put my 9th grader in there with or vice versa. Hettie, my 3rd grader, is in there with a 9th grade girl. And I would say, well, she said, they would say, that's not going to work. I said, well, you will have to tell God that. Because unless there are twins in your family, nobody in that family is the same age.
Right.
See, that was a revelation. I never thought that.
The revelation that God gave you was family-style bunkhouses.
I said, 3rd graders aren't nearly as homesick with those older girls
Smart.
that love them.
Right.
And a good counselor will get your 9th graders and 8th graders, these older kids, loving and helping. A good counselor can really do. Well, I went to all these colleges. I'm going to tell you some of the kids I hired. Oh, yes, I can do archery. I never will forget this girl. Oh, yes. So we got here, and I had all these bows and all this stuff. Oh, yes. And I said, okay, well, now here's your archery, and, and here. Oh, well, I just meant I shot a bow and arrow one time. Boy, now, those are the kind of Oh, yeah, to teach horseback riding, they had ridden a horse one time.
Right.
Boy, did I learn everything that I learned. learned. Going to these colleges and interviewing. They had classes at that time, they had classes, recreation classes that you could take. And so I would notify that teacher, and they would have them come, and they would get me a room, and I would go and talk to all these kids. And that's where I got my first counselors. Well, I had to do with the counselors as much as I had to do. Everything that's on that list that y'all inherited from me, I learned the hard way.
Yep.
Everything. Oh, put that on the list. Put that on the list. Put that on the list. Ooh, and that list just kept getting longer.
It still does.
Yeah.
Yes.
How long did you have to keep doing that? What do you remember at all? What years was
15
it?
years.
About 15 years.
15 years before I could really say
that you raised up most of them.
See,
About 1980.
Yeah. You know, here's what happened to me. I knew there was a big change between a 9th grader
Right.
and a 10th grader. At that time, our junior highs went up to 9th grade.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
7th through 9th. That's how we did it. So I knew there was a big change between that. And I thought, now camp, I can handle them up to the 9th grade. But then I won't be sophisticated enough
Right.
for the high schoolers. Well, I had kids that didn't want to graduate.
They wanted to still be there.
They wanted to still be here, so that's where the junior counselor thing began to unfold from that. You want to come back next year and be
Help out a little bit.
Yeah, help out. And you can be a junior. It just came to me, you know. And so
It just came to me. Tyler loves it.
So that just evolved. All of that just
Right.
evolved. But it was, and Don said that it was 10 or 15 years before we ever made him money. Maybe 10 years.
Wow.
Before we ever, because he had worked the hardware store.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that. During the year he
Oh,
worked
yeah.
for Daddy B?
Yeah.
At Brooks Hardware?
At his dad's hardware store.
Okay.
All during the winter, the 9 months during the winter.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And then he would come home at night and do all the stuff we had to do to get ready for camp.
Wow.
So he'd work all day and work all night. You know, I can remember being up in that little first part there, that little upstairs where the office is upstairs. It'd be where those little windows are up there. I'd be cranking on an old mimeograph machine when I was making all those books and putting them together, and it'd be 3 o'clock in the morning. And that thing would get stuck, and if anybody wanted to ever lose their religion, they could have lost it with a mimeograph, or those old-timey mimeograph machines. That paper getting wadded up and all that.
How many years did you have camp before it became an overnight camp? How many years were you a day?
Well, Don Brooks, I think he was the one that said, well, or maybe I
Got this old brochure.
I don't know whose idea that was. But between us, we decided we did day camp 2 years, and the next 2 years we built 2 little old bunkhouses back behind.
Do you remember what the first cabins were?
Yeah. I've known that forever. Pintos. And I think it was the Pintos and the...
Was it Lipizans?
Well, that was the second one. We just had one. One girls and one boys. I was trying to think of the boys' bunkhouse.
So it's one of the
Hackney's?
current boy bunkhouses?
Well, yeah.
Was
one
it
of
the
current-
Hackneys?
And they're still there. They've added on to
Yep.
it now.
Okay.
Was it
And
the
they-
Hackneys?
Huh?
Was it the Hackneys?
No. Give me another.
Mustangs, Walkers,
Broncos.
Broncos. I think it was either the Walkers or the Broncos.
The Walkers is kind of up front. Broncos is really tucked. It makes sense because the Broncos is really down in a hole right there. So it might make sense why that one first on the
Where it
left.
was.
It's first on the left.
Yeah. I think it was the one that was facing. What's that one? Is that Walkers? What's
It's
the
facing
one
out.
facing out?
That's facing this way.
Yeah,
That's
I
the Walkers or the Mustangs, those two.
Mustangs.
Mustangs was the first.
Mustang. I don't know.
I'm going
I'm
with
so
the
carried away.
Mustangs
Look
You're only going with the Mustangs because you were
because
one.
that's my favorite cabin.
Okay. It was. That's more where we would have gone camp horse names.
Yeah.
You know.
Mustangs and Pintos.
And so we had these two, and where the hall bathroom was. Do y'all still? That was in Missy's room. there.
Yes. Oh, yes.
All
Yes.
right,
Yes.
The little bitty one was the boys where they took their shower
Wow.
and their thing. And then the hall bathroom was the girls.
Okay.
So we had 2 bunkhouses. Now, the old house that was the cook's hut, we called it. And that was when Don made that house for me, and that he bought an old dump truck, and he put this little house that he built, wooden house. We screened in around it, and that was really my first camper. And or maybe my second one. Yeah, that was my second one. I had the bus first, and then I got uptown. And he would take me to the camp and dump me on the dump truck.
That was the nature hut, right? It became the nature hut
Yes.
here. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
The old nature hut.
That was
a
the
lot
first
of-
kitchen?
Well, that was where our cook lived.
Oh, lived.
Wow.
That's where she
Do you remember the nature
Whoa.
hut, Tyler? That was back by the Boys Hill. Just right.
It was right here.
Yeah, just right back here.
Yeah.
It was tiny.
Well, and Mary Lou and David were my first counselors, and they got married a month or something before camp, and they worked for me. David worked in town, but Mary Lou was my counselor, and they lived for 3 months.
Whoa.
See,
Just to
we
give
went all the
people
way
a
through
reference about what that trailer looked like, it was not, I would say it wasn't much bigger than this
No,
table.
it was about this size.
That's how I remember it.
Yeah,
it was about the size of this trailer or this table.
table. Yeah. Amazing.
I love that. We got all these old brochures. This was important to Pop.
Now this is Don Brooks.
This was Pop's
keeping.
project.
This is Pop.
And I absolutely love it. And really,
He
it
kept
has it
everything.
all the way till we stopped doing brochures.
Yeah.
You know, I remember Tim saying, we can't stop doing brochures. We can't.
Oh yeah.
And the first year we gave parents a choice, I think we had 12 brochures turned in, and then the rest
Everybody
was all
else.
It's
online.
digital.
And we were like, yeah, I think it's us that's behind. So we changed that. Tyler, show some of this footage. I want to see. I just want to talk a little bit. Start with Hettie greeting campers.
Yeah.
Because this is just who you were. I just love this. Here's your junior counselors.
See, we still teach this. Our counselors still go out and they still going into a cabin.
Meet the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Let them feel good.
And you go around.
Right
That's
there.
you. That's you just hugging.
Yeah, I remember that.
You're the senior counselor basically here, and you're hugging. You remember that kid? Is that what you were saying? But here you are hugging. You're hugging every parent. You're making every parent feel good.
I could see their faces.
And you've got these junior counselors grabbing all the stuff.
Oh, that. Oh, I almost said his name. Don.
Look at you
There's
hugging.
your counselors.
Look at you giving a big hug to that girl. You got your counselors
This is my favorite right here.
Yeah.
He unloads his kids'
out of the horse trailer.
camp stuff out of the horse trailer.
I absolutely love that.
Don't you love it?
But this is camp. I mean, it's no different today. Look, taking the stuff back to bunkhouse, kids excited, junior counselors going in there to do that. You're out there, and here you go, probably orientation here or morning devotions.
I was really camp.
Yeah. You were
love the
the
shirts.
senior counselor.
Well, see, the counselors didn't know anything.
Right.
Don Bundy, I knew his
Well,
name.
how would they were willing,
They were willing.
but they didn't know anything, and how would they?
And if they weren't willing, I made them willing.
Right. What is he doing? What is this? Morning devotions
Morning
or something?
devotions is what we were guessing.
Look at Don in
we
the
had
cowboy hat
counsel-
over there.
We had, now that might have been the ones who lost every
Something.
afternoon.
Uh-huh.
We had a volleyball game. And the
Podium.
ones who lost had to put on a show, and they had to dress up and be all crazy. And Mary Lou and I would fight like over every volley, No, that was out. No, we would just fight like crazy because the one who lost had to come up with a show. And that was every day, all summer. All
So I
summer.
love this so
Look
much.
at that's the road. That's
That's
the road today.
That's it.
And look, Small Lake was built, right?
That's your rock wall.
See.
Small Lake was your first lake.
Now, this girl right there, names are really hard for me right now. She became, I had a guy that did archery that was really a pro.
Yeah, go back to that archery there.
Now, we were getting fancy by this time because
Okay.
he was really pro.
Okay.
He had big time archery stuff, and she became a state archery champ.
This girl
The
right here.
camper. This
Yes.
girl did?
Oh, yeah, just,
That's
I know
incredible.
It was I know my own name. When you just love to have the mind that could remember names.
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
In your defense, you've only met about 20,000
That's about,
campers, so you know.
Yeah.
Well, and it
a
was
bunch. And
1965
Give or
or
take.
6.
But see, that guy, he was really good.
He's a good
See, I
teacher.
was
So we
everywhere.
still do this fishing derby,
Yep.
cane poles.
Cane poles, fishing dirt. That right there has not changed an
So I
ounce.
love this scene right
Small
here.
Lake.
A small
Pause
lake
that.
fishing derby, and then
All right,
the
and see, no
road.
swimming pool.
No swimming pool. Nope. No
All right.
swimming pool yet.
Okay, so let me tell you.
Okay.
Now, Donna and I both, neither one of us know who saw. We didn't really see Small Lake.
Okay.
We saw the road getting across it.
Okay.
It was a big valley there.
Right.
And I'm not sure we planned on Small Lake as much as we needed that road.
Okay.
And as we were building the road, somehow it came to us.
The water just kind of.
Well, yeah, because there was a little creek
Okay.
that was coming through there.
Is it still the one that runs from Small
Yeah.
Lake through to
Yeah.
Big Lake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That little creek was coming through there. It didn't fill it up, but it did started catching. You know, we could see we were having a pond there.
Right.
We could see that. Okay, so this is camps all over. It's maybe the first week of September, because see, we went up to August 19th. I can remember it being one of our last camps, you know, and that's before school started in August. And so we did all 3 months. Okay, I'm walking this dirt. I feel real restless. I just feel like I can't get, what's this all about? So a lot of times I would go walking to pray and just to get with God. And, you know, I've got some real things this is too much. Okay, so I went walking on that road. And I went up that road. I'm so glad to have this picture. And see that tree over here closest to you, David?
Yep.
Okay, there's a hole there. And I went down the hole, and I walked down that hole and went up to that tree. And I sat under the tree, and I said, God, I just feel I couldn't get hold of something's going on, and I can't get. And I remember drawing my knees up and put my hands like this. I heard these words, behold your swimming pool.
Behold your swimming pool.
Those were the words.
Okay.
Behold your swimming pool. And I looked, built a dam across there, fill it up. Now you can dig a well and you can feed the bottom of it. That never worked, but we tried that. And we'll have fresh water flowing through it, and it can overflow into
Into Small Lake. It can go from
Yes.
Funston to Small Lake.
I got so excited because I never wanted a public little bitty pond.
Pool, yeah.
I wanted country.
Yep.
I wanted kids to swim in a pond, you know.
Yep.
And experience what it's like.
We have footage.
Do you know where the fun swim
Yeah, we have
footage
fun
is
swim
once they
footage,
got
Ty.
that built? Because y'all did that changing room pretty early on. See if we can find it
Look
here.
at my kids. I'm teaching horseback. I
Oh,
love
s-
to teach horseback.
So
right
fun.
now.
There was archery. There's
Look at that little thing. Oh.
and we can come
We'll
back
come back.
to some
Yeah,
of that.
absolutely.
Does
Right
that
there,
make
man.
There it is.
Funny.
There
Right
it
here,
is.
Mimi.
Right here.
Oh,
Okay.
right
back
there.
up. There we go. Right after which I never understood day camp. I don't know, but here
That's the changing house.
Yep, right there.
See the hole?
Changing house.
Right here.
There's
Look at the little water.
look
See?
at that. That's it. And then
I cannot
Wait, hold on, we
believe
got-
Don Brooks.
and then it's going to keep going to look. Y'all built a little.
And Don got
Pause it
out
right there.
He drained it and built that dock.
Wow.
And we believed that the Lord would fill it up like we do every year.
Say like
Yep,
we
and
do
it
every
did.
year.
But, during orientation, you would always, the story that stands out to me is air condition.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You would always talk about during orientation,
when
if you split your britches, don't cry, don't get upset. Just, air condition. I just remember that story.
Isn't that funny?
Some of those stories.
Teaching them how to laugh at themselves.
That's it.
Teaching them
it's
if
okay.
you fall down, it's okay.
It's okay.
If you can't ride the horse good, that's okay.
Yeah.
No, we just gonna have fun.
Yep.
And if you do something silly, it's silly.
Yeah.
So you just laugh with us. We're gonna laugh at you.
Yep.
So just laugh with us. And we're missing so much.
Oh, yeah.
Because we fear. Oh, we fear other people laughing at us. If you fall down, your face turns red, and you are embarrassed instead of just, oh, it's nice down here. Some of y'all want to join me, or just
Yep.
some comeback.
Yep.
And when the kids, and that's the reason. See, I did so many things that, if my old campers are out there now, I'm fessing up. I'm going to tell them the truth. I did several things. First of all, I made, if you lost the fishing derby, you had to dress up crazy.
Right.
I made them dress up crazy. I made them do tacky things. I made them learn how to think that was funny, because that wasn't anything anybody was going to do.
Right.
And then the second thing that I did was story time. They didn't know, you guys didn't know, that I always had ears all over everywhere. Now, if I heard somebody, whatever, if I had some ninth grade girls that were new and they were, cool, a little snobbish, I would have that kind of character in the story.
You put that in the story.
And all of them they would just not like her.
It's genius.
Then they would not like what she did. And then if I would see a little boy who just could not control himself, I would have that character. And he just ruined everything, and people who had tried so hard, and then he just tore it down and tore it up. See, Bud Smedley, a friend of mine, told me the night I hung up those old nails that we used to have to keep the balls.
Right. Still got them.
And he said, they won't last 1 week. Those kids will tear them down. I said, not my kids. Those aren't Brookhillers. Those things rotted down.
That's right.
But I always set them up for that. You can tear them down if you want to and chase the ball down the hill, but they're there for a purpose. And if you're smart, you'll appreciate the fact keep your ball
That's right.
from going down. And I have Brookhillers, and they're smart. They're not stupid. They don't tear people's stuff up. They don't write on walls. I said, if you write your name on the wall in one of the bathrooms, I figure that's a good place for your name.
Yeah.
I said, in an old smelly stinky John, that's where your name belongs. We never had a name written on anything. Ever. People say, Hettie, how'd you do it? I always set things up.
Everything's in the setup.
I don't expect kids to be good.
Right.
I don't expect them not to tear up and be
Right.
boys. I don't expect that. You got to teach them why. I always give them a good reason why. And we're smart. We're smart enough to know. Hey, you're going to come back next week maybe, or again. And I want that bunkhouse still be there. It was amazing to me. When Big Lake, I was standing, I never thought about that, ever.
Never thought about it. So you had Fun Swim, you had Small Lake, never thought about Big Lake.
That was go-kart
I was
track.
fixing to say, the track, the track.
We had a track down there. And
Tyler, you got the old go-kart footage? You can put that up there?
That Don
remember where
Brooks,
that
I'm
was?
impressed with him.
Yeah,
There
right
it
there,
is,
right there.
right here.
Look at that.
Watch
Look at
these
all
kids
those
driving in the
beautiful
grass.
trees.
This is illegal today to drive in the grass, but watch them. Is that down in the valley? Is
Yeah,
that-
Brook Lake.
That's
They're
in Big Lake?
They're in Big Lake right now.
Wow.
They're in the bottom of Big Lake, and
Watch
look
them
at all
drive
those
in the
big
grass.
trees. And see, it was such a pretty place. Those trees,
Was it?
and I just loved it. I never would have ever thought of putting that there. And because they had that shade, they could get in those trees, and they liked walking
beautiful.
through them, and they would walk down the hill to get to them.
Was this a good representation of what it looked like kind of everywhere? It wasn't thick trees, but there were trees everywhere, or no?
Oh, up
You
where,
had to clear
up where
this.
you live,
Yes.
you couldn't see your hand.
Okay, so it
And-
was thick up there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, when we were trying to position the pavilion,
Mm-hmm.
that was a problem Don and I had.
The trees were everywhere.
Yeah, and we couldn't, and we couldn't see where we wanted things. So we said, "Oh God, you just have to help me." But
Wow.
we'd go out and I'd look at the view and go back and try to get it set just right. One day, I was out up where we're having counseling and all that, But I think we had moved up there
Okay.
then. Because that was after I'd had camp 4 years.
Hey, Tyler, put the council ring. Sorry, Tyler, we got you. Put the council ring picture up there. This is the one I think you're talking about. I love giving people a visual
Yeah.
of what you're talking about.
Is that so fun?
I think it's
the
really
one
cool
that's
too
got the arrow of her.
to see like where we used to
Remember
be.
the arrow? This is Hettie. The council ring picture. I took a picture of it on my phone. Okay. Let's see. I have it. I know I have it on my phone because I took it.
I like that life, legacy, and leadership. That's cool.
It was Mr. Tyler Fincher.
Tyler, you're a
It's that one
genius.
right there. He's got it. He's got everything. Someone
Oh,
Is this-
how
is this
fun
the
that was. Now,
kind of
that
early
guy,
on?
That's Missy that he's holding. Did y'all
is
know
it
that?
really?
That's
Okay.
Missy. And the guy in the hat was our worker.
What was his name?
That's Tim.
Yeah, that's my dad.
X. We called him X.
That's right. That's
Yes.
right.
We
X.
called him X.
Yeah, I see Tim with a towel.
Yes.
So this is my dad,
Yep.
Yeah, that's Tim.
and that's my aunt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that just the cutest?
And I love
thing?
how someone put Hettie,
Hettie up there. That
In
was-
case
yeah,
that's the only one I knew in the picture. It was Hettie.
that was my goodness.
So this is still how everything really
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
In the pavilion.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is
For
the
a long
cafeteria.
time.
And we still have the screen.
And this is where you would have council ring or show and
Yeah,
tell or whatever
yeah,
you might be doing
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
This is early on. What year would that have been? I mean, Tim couldn't be 14, maybe 15.
Is that Eli's
Maybe she's
look?
13.
He's like 13 or 14.
Yeah, she looks, maybe 13, 14.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And see, he and Missy, my kids were in everything. Rod's, I don't know whether Rod,
that's
Rod's-
not him, is it? That's not Rod, is it?
No.
No. Okay.
Now,
Picture cook.
now that's Nani, the cook, looking out the window.
That's
Yeah.
fun. She's out there watching.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, she was into everything.
I love the Brookhill shirt up there. We're going to bring that one back. I noticed it in some of the videos. We're going to bring that one back in maybe next year. We've already
that
got
cool?
We've already got them. This is just fun. It just it's got
it's
the
cool.
Bronco and the.
That's cool.
But this is it. Y'all were doing council. Y'all would do council ring up
yeah.
here.
Yeah. Well, when we moved over there, then somebody was at my house, over at your house, because I was out in the yard at my house. And somebody said, Hettie, what are you going to do next? They had been with me from the beginning, and they had seen it all. Out of my mouth, had never thought of it one time, had never come to me. Out of my mouth, I said, oh, I don't know, maybe build a big lake right down the middle. I thought, well, that's a good idea.
Well, that's
There you go. That's a good.
Well,
idea.
I worked on that. Just, okay.
wow.
And that is where I remember you telling me how Carnival Island that's the inside of Big Lake, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
When
So it was
when
1972. Just so y'all know, New Big Lake was in the map.
There you go.
It was not in 71, so 1972, New Big Lake's on the brochure.
And see, I
That's
think
8
that,
years into camp.
See, I think at that time we started and we even used it, but it wasn't quite full. The edges, because it fills up by rain. Okay, I've told you this, I think, million times, but this is one of my favorite miracle stories. Okay, so we got the bulldozer guys down, and they built the big dam down at the bottom. The bulldozers were going. And so I was always down there checking on them and encouraging them and telling them I was praying for them and all that. So I went down there, and this guy said, Miss Hettie, I want to tell you something. Do you realize that if it starts raining, we won't get back in? This was November sometime. We won't get back in here till the spring. If the winter, when the rains come, because this is nothing, because we have that little creek that ran through, and it said, this will be a mud hole. We are making a mud hole if it rains. And he said, and it's going to rain. And I said, well, not necessarily. I mean, it doesn't have to rain until you're through. Now, come on, man. He gave me the hardest time. I come down there one day. I was down there, and it was sprinkling. Miss Hettie, I told you. I said, oh, don't you know? Yeah, y'all are so dusty, you just are eating dust. The Lord's settling the dust. That's all. He's just settling the dust. This is going to be okay. This is going to be okay. And that's all it did.
And this was the Big Lake Dam that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Now, was that Mr. Garrett? Was that not Garrett?
Yes.
Garrett Excavation. Yeah.
Did they do the Big Lake?
That was what Tim Brooks said.
Yes. He was our
And
guy,
that's where Sean
'cause he
O'Keen
was-
is now.
Yeah. Because he was my daddy's good buddy.
Yep.
He was my daddy.
That's right. Isn't that neat? That is neat. And now his grandson or whatever is.
Well, he wasn't the one I was talking to. It was one of his people.
but
because I know him, and I know it wasn't him.
Yeah. And it didn't rain. That's
It didn't
unbelievable.
rain. And so I kept saying, it's not going to rain. He said, you can't say that. And I said, well, I can. I mean, this is not my lake. This lake is the Lord's. He showed it to me. He's the one. It's his. It's everything. So whatever. I'm just telling you, I just trust the Lord. Whatever. And I just think you'll be through it. Whatever. But I don't think it's going to rain. The day. He said, Miss Hettie, it's going to take a lot of water. It's going to take a lot of water to fill this lake up. The day as they drove out, it started pouring down rain.
Come on.
I went down. He said, okay, you made a believer out of me. Okay, I surrender.
So you're saying there's a God that cares about us.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a God that cares about the details, that builds things, that does things that we can't do.
Oh, and there's a God that
Because there's
loves
no
his
explanation,
kids. There's a
right?
God that loves his kids.
That's right.
And I know that some people say, well, I tried faith and it didn't work for me. Well, see, faith always works for me, even if it's no.
Sure.
Because he's got something better.
Yep.
See, I trust God.
That's right.
And if what I'm believing for and praying for doesn't happen, well, it'll happen somewhere down life's way.
I heard this the other day. I put it on my Instagram that God has 3 answers for us. He has yes, and he'll give us what's in our heart. He has no, and he gives us something better. And he has wait. And it'll be in a little while, and it'll be the best. I thought that was it's so true. It's so true.
Profound? Because God does hear and answer prayer.
That's right. You know, speaking of Jesus, the crucifixion has always been a big part of camp.
Oh.
Was that from day one?
No.
You know, when did you decide?
No.
That would be a part. Important part. Because when I was a camper, that was always a thing in 1989 was when I was first.
I wonder when that was. Tim would have been maybe a junior or senior maybe in high school.
Okay.
Okay, he was the first Jesus.
So was it his idea or was it no?
No,
Okay.
it was mine.
Okay.
We're going to show. I tell stories.
Right. So
And
that was just a
we
part of the story you were telling that
was
summer.
It. That was it.
And then you were
Why
like, well,
can't
why
they-
don't we do that
I
every
know.
summer?
Why can't they live that?
Right.
Why can't we live that?
Right. Right.
Why can't we live that? So we're rehearsing, and we got walkie-talkies. So whatever, we were that far advanced.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was out the bottom of the hill, and I'm directing everything, and they're practicing. Okay, now Jesus, now Tim, you fold off of you just fold off of the cross into their arms, and so I'm telling them what to do.
And was it always on the Fun Swim Hill?
Yeah.
Because that's where it's all, and it's so real. I mean, I know as a kid watching that, it came alive for me.
Yeah.
It just, and the counselors were far enough away that you didn't really see them. You just, when it was dark, and it just really came alive for me, for the first time seeing it. But when you connect with a kid, they don't care about, they don't care. They don't care about those things.
They don't.
And obviously, you use those. A go-kart's a tool. A horseback is a tool, to capture their heart. But when you capture that heart and they know that you genuinely care about them, then they want to know why. Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about, we reenact the crucifixion. We say, let me tell you why we love you. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you why these counselors, this is what Jason talks about, because when, the kids want to know why. What makes you so different?
Yeah.
What makes you,
Yeah.
confident in who you are and not try and be like everybody else?
Yeah.
And they want that same freedom. I mean, they want...
Yeah, they do. I think one of the biggest lessons that we've learned, I know from us from watching you, is I feel like you always took time to figure out how kids learn and how they receive. Mm-hmm. And I feel like so many times, we have camps. This is the program. This is what we do every day. Now, whether or not you hear or receive this way or enjoy it, this is what we do every day. Mm-hmm. And I feel like here, at Brookhill, we're so take into consideration how they listen, how they receive, and
It's
then
this way.
it's always this way.
And it's not this way.
That's right. It has to be. And, now even with the crucifixion, we've divided ages, and we do some things a little bit, differently because the younger kids receive differently, and I feel like it's so neat that we're able to constantly figure out how kids listen, and not even kids, but even with our staff, how they receive and how they learn and how people get information, and we're able to figure those things out and then customize what we do to make sure that they get it.
See, that was my whole life. I never did 2 camp sessions the same because I was always learning. Mm-hmm. I was always figuring it out. Mm-hmm. And then the next year, I was always figuring out what I could do better. And
That's
I see
it.
y'all doing the same thing.
Well, see, we have to, because our world has changed so much.
That's
From when
exactly.
you did things to now when we're doing things, it's a completely different world,
Oh,
and
yeah.
kids don't receive the same way even as they did last year. And we're always talking to our counselors, what's the newest trend? What now are the words that they say? What now means these things? And they're teaching us, and we're able to keep the same message, the same
That's
heart,
it.
the same love, the same, all of it the same, and in a way that they get it.
And you
They
always
do
you
love it.
always said, call the greatness out of them.
That's it.
It's in them, but it has to be called out of them, And I always remember your call in staff training or
I know
staff
it.
meeting, call it out of them, and that and they love that because they want people to be honest with them. They want
Absolutely.
maybe not at first. But over time, they're like, I wanted that. I really, and that's what our counselors are doing. They're calling that greatness out of them. You're more than that. Like you said, you're not an animal. You're this, you're that, and telling them you're good. Instead of you're bad. You're not that. You're this. You're this. And that's it. Every negative is a
win.
positive that just has to be. For me, I'm too competitive. It's a good thing that I'm competitive. It's a bad thing. It's a good thing that boy's a leader, but maybe in this moment it's a bad thing. But it's like you're saying, turning that around.
Exactly.
You know, this kid's kind of over by themselves and doing this. Well, they might be creative. Let's get that
Yeah.
creativity flowing.
Exactly. Find out what that gift
Yeah,
is and encourage it.
but instead, I think we want everybody to be this certain person, this little obedient, sweet little sitting in the corner, hi, you know, little meek person. But God created us all individually, and that's what Brookhill. That's what's so beautiful about Brookhill. You could be who you were. You know, and we love you for that, you know, and I love that. And then we're just going to call that greatness out of your individual uniqueness. And that's what the kids love. I can be myself. You're not trying to make me this cookie cutter. You're just trying to make me who God created me to be. And that's
then
what
we all fit together.
that's
But
it.
I think a lot of times we want people to be like us because we can get along
That's
with
right.
people like us. And I love the way that our staff is made up because it is made up of so many different personality
So many.
types that we're able to connect with everybody.
Yeah,
You know, with
exactly.
our hiring team now that we have in admin, we have all of our input. And we're able to help put together a staff that is as well-rounded and has so many interests that we're able to connect with so many different, you know, types of kids. And they don't all have to be like one. We can figure out them.
I have one more question for you, and then I wanted to make one more comment. My question is this: why the red T-shirt? Why the red? Why red?
Well, red's my favorite color.
What did I say? Thank you
what
very
Lily
much.
said.
That's what I said. We were talking about questions.
It's your favorite color.
And they said, why the red T-shirt? I said, red's your favorite color.
Period.
Red is my favorite color.
Period.
And I
And that's
don't know
why.
whether this is the motive behind red,
Okay.
thinking about it being my favorite color, but red stands out,
It does.
Oh, it does.
and you can pick it out of a crowd real easily.
Right.
More than all the other colors blend.
That's right.
Blue blends.
I think you're exactly right, but I still think it's probably because it was your favorite color, and I think God,
you know it was.
God saved
then
you.
He added all
He
the
saved
other.
you because red does stand out more than anything else.
I mean, your
but I think
kitchen
it was.
cabinets were red. You
Yeah.
had, I mean,
I forgot about that.
That right there,
yeah.
that was my first year on all summer staff. I had that picture of me and you. I got a picture of me and Lynn. It was that was church of the 2-week session is what
Can
that
you
was
see
right
Eli
there.
right there.
So, you know,
All of a
do you
sudden,
have the one of us?
oh,
that smile is like Eli. Oh my goodness!
I don't think I brought it. I don't know if I brought it in here, Lynn.
I have never seen
David
this
and I
picture.
have a picture at that same camp session together at the church, and at the two of us. And now we're running camp
Okay,
together
let me say
in
this.
Laud.
As we're trying to wrap this up.
Yes. And, you know, the thing that I wanted to end with is, you know, this podcast is called Life Legacy Leadership. This is one of my absolute favorite pictures right here because these are all Hackney. Those are all Hackney counselors. Those are, you know, Cato and Monty. See, Monty was my second counselor in the 4th grade. And then Lindley and I got to hire Everett and Emma. You know, in that, I love those are all Hackneys. That was one Hackney to another, all the way down to Russ Jackson. You know, we've had Maggie here, we've had Avery here, Major's been here, but I absolutely love. Trevor is going to be here this summer.
Brian's kids came.
Brian's kids were here, but the legacy of the red T-shirt, the legacy that you and Pop started because you were a little girl. You were a little girl that went to summer camp, that started a summer camp. I was a little boy that went to summer camp, who is now met Lynn, met Melissa, met Mike, and now we're continuing the legacy. And so,
It's awesome.
you know, that's why we started this podcast, was to talk about the Brookhill legacy and to continue that. And I love these conversations. And I'm sorry for our listeners that this one was so short. You know, I really wanted her to talk longer, but we love it. We love the legacy. And so we want to say thank you. And I know that our listeners want to hear, but I wouldn't be who I was today if it wasn't for obviously my camper years, but as a first year all summer, to realize that I could lead, that I could be used by the Lord. And now here we are some 24, 25 years later.
Well, I wonder if it's okay with the Lord. If I feel like I'm the most blessed person on the face of the earth, to have all the precious people that God has given me.
I love it.
See, I didn't find you.
No,
God brought you from Houston.
that's it.
See, I don't find people.
Here at Brookhill, and I actually think a lot of places, fun, connection, and Jesus is a winning formula.
Yeah.
And so
See, and that's the thing. We talk about crucifixion, and I cry, and we talk about Jesus, and that's just a woman. They don't know the funny stuff that I have fun.
Yep.
I mean, I have fun. I don't just sit. Their concept of me is because I talk about reading this every day. They think I just sit.
I don't know who would think that. You started Brookhill, so you got to be kind of fun.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Well, the parents,
Right.
people that they find that out.
Well, thank you for being here today.
Have fun. Thank you.
And I'm excited. We're excited to release this, and we think a lot of people are going to love hearing your stories, hearing how, and even for the people who've never been to Brook or never knew the legacy back when Hettie was doing story time and the different thing. I think it's going to be fun for them to hear the heart of where we started.
it's going to be fun for our campers to hear the why.
Absolutely.
This is why we do these. Because
right.
this is what was done.
They go, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
Been fun.
so
Good place
fun.
to end.
I love it.
I'm proud of y'all. I am so proud.
Is that